So for the people that are joining us, we're just going to wait a couple of more minutes before we start. For all the speakers, just put yourself on mute. I see everybody is on mute. Cameras are off. Again, welcome to Innovel's fourth webinar in our 333 series. 3 industry experts, 3 innovative Israeli startups, each one presenting for 3 minutes. In just a couple of minutes, I'm going to start by introducing our speakers, and then we'll start the panel. If you have any questions, you can send questions through the QA, and we'll be more than happy for this panel to be as interactive as possible, and feel free to ask anything you want. I'll try to include your question in our discussion. From a format perspective, in the meantime, we're going to have about a 30 minutes discussion with our 3 industry experts from 3 different companies in the 3 different airlines, international airlines. And then we're going to bring the 3 startups, each one going to do a 3-minute pitch. And then the startup will join the discussion as well. So we still have people joining, so just bear with me in a second, and then we will start even though people are still joining. Okay, we'll start. We still have people joining, and it's fine, and people might be joining along during the session itself. My name is Ron Handler, and I'm the CEO of Innovel. For the one of you that don't know about Innovel, we are basically an unique corporate open innovation platform specializing in travel, tourism, and hospitality. We help international travel organizations with their innovation effort, specifically with emerging technology and more so within the Israeli ecosystem. So I'd like to start by introducing, and I'll be moderating this panel, of course. I'd like to start by introducing our speaker. First, we have Ling Ting from Etihad Airways. Ling leads innovation at Etihad Innovation Group with a strategic focus on organizational capabilities, development, and culture change, accelerated innovation, delivery, and external partnership. She is passionate about innovation, the drive business value, and is a firm believer in the power of partnership, both internally and externally, to deliver change. Prior to joining Etihad, Ling worked in a strategic project management and marketing in Abu Dhabi and Singapore. Please join me by welcoming Ling. Ling, thank you very much. Next, we have from Japan Airlines, Akira Mitsumasu. He's the Vice President of Global Marketing. Akira brings over 30 years of experience in the aviation industry and has held multiple leadership roles within the company, including his previous role as VP of Product and Services. Akira has been named one of Asia's best marketeer and is recognized as one of the 50th most influential global marketing leaders. He currently serves as an advisory board member of the CMO Council for Asia Pacific and member of APEX, which is the Airline Passenger Experience Board of Directors. Please welcome me by joining Akira. Thank you, Akira. Last but not least, we have Nick Bettles. Nick from Virgin Atlantic. Nick is named one of the rising stars within travel in 2019 by the People Award. Nick is seen as one to watch within commercial aviation. His aviation career began over 10 years ago in Abu Dhabi, bring us closer to Ling. and he is proud to have spent his first year understanding aviation cabin crew for Etihad Airways. And within 12 months, he joined their first cohort of non-Emirati graduated. Following a return to the UK, he joined Cathay Pacific, where he managed global corporate business. He was snapped up by Virgin Atlantic, where for the past 6 years, he has worked across numerous commercial sales positions, leading him to his current role as country manager for Israel, where he led the opening of the first new non-US route for Virgin in over 10 years. Nick, welcome. Please welcome Nick. Hey, Nick. So actually, Nick, you are not in Israel now. You are in the UK, correct? Please unmute yourself, guys.
Indeed, I'm stuck from Corona once again. It happened before and it's happened again. So back in the UK at the moment. Very
good. So let's start, let's just start helping the audience kind of know a little bit about yourself. I did those introduction, it's fine, but just maybe we can start with Ling and tell us a little bit about your role and how does it relate to the overall innovation efforts in your organization.
Thank you, Rom. So hi, everyone. My name's Ling. I lead innovation at Etihad. My role sits currently under the Chief Digital Officer, so part of the Digital Technology and Innovation Division of the organization. We look after innovation right across Etihad Aviation Group, so the core airline business itself, but also within our engineering as well as our operations and airport services teams.
And the Chief Digital reports into who?
The CEO, the group CEO.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. Akira, how is your role fit in innovation? And do you even have innovation really within Japan Airlines?
We do indeed. My main role is more with the global marketing, and that's essentially marketing outside of Japan. But because I also belong to the CX division, I'm also very heavily involved in many innovation initiatives, especially around digital experience. We have within JAL an innovation lab, which is located very near our head office, where we work with quite a lot of companies within the innovation hub space, both within Japan and around the world. And we pick up ideas, create prototypes, test them, and we are pretty active in driving innovation, both to improve customer experience, but also to improve the way we work as an airline.
Perfect, thank you. Nick, you are actually, normally you're based in Tel Aviv, neighbor of us. And even though that you are the commercial country manager, I know Virgin maybe is not as structured when it gets to innovation as Etihad or Japan Airline, but you guys are looking at different things in Israel. So how is your role fit into this overall equation of innovation for your company?
Yeah, thanks, Rom, and thank you very much for the kind introduction as well. It's great to be here. Look, my role is primarily commercial and operations based in Israel, looking after the operation that we have over there. But really, my experience and insight into the innovation world and the ecosystem that's out there has really been exposed from geographical location more so than anything else. I think being based in Israel at the very center of what is global innovation, and it is a fantastic place to be. I've been lucky enough to be involved in this now for around 12, sort of 18 months, and really it's being close to the ecosystem that I think has really lent us a great deal of insight into what startups, innovators, new concepts, new ideas can bring to Virgin Atlantic. So my role is really that conduit between the internal organization and what we have on the field in Israel. predominantly the new CIO or CIDO, the Chief Information and Digital Officer, Ash Joku, manages this, and it's filtered throughout his team. But as you say, unlike Ling and Akira, there isn't necessarily an innovation platform or hub set up in Virgin Atlantic at this stage. But we have a great deal of, obviously, of opportunity to take advantage of, like the others do.
Perfect, thank you. I want to ask you, I mean, all three of you, as far as the challenges, I mean, there are many challenges with innovation in general, and we're not talking yet about our current situation with the pandemic, and we know how painful it's been specifically for the airline industry. But if you think in general about innovation, what are the biggest challenges that you are facing within your organization, either internally or externally, when you're trying to drive any type of innovation? I mean, is it resources? Is it regulation, which there is a lot in your industry? Is it basically internal politics, resistance of change? We are all about people industry. Maybe we should start with Ling.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in saying there are a number of challenges when it comes to driving innovation. And I think that's where culture, although it seems like such a vague or soft subject, it's actually so important. And a big part of my role, at least within Etihad, when it comes to driving innovation, is really on that culture change piece, because there is only so much you can do from an innovation team perspective if you bring new technologies and new interesting ways of working, but if the people are not receptive towards it, right? You need to speak the same language. If you speak in tech speak, for instance, you may lose your audience completely, because the business people just want to know what it means for them from a day-to-day basis. So how do you break down those barriers? I would say that would be that initial start was the toughest for us. So building that culture, which is willing to try new things. Aviation in the industry as a whole is very focused on safety, which means we don't like failing. So how do we get our peers, our executives to be comfortable with the idea of experimenting, and that, you have to trial, and you might fail a little, but you pivot and you build iteratively. I think that was our biggest struggle when we started off. So once we got that culture going, though, once we get people comfortable and a little more confident about being able to bring new ideas to the fore or try new concepts, new technology, that's when things moved a lot quicker for us within Etihad.
So basically, it was the beginning culturally, the fear of failing, which is impossible to innovate. If you're not willing to fail, you will never innovate. Which is true. It's a big cultural obstacle that one needs to overcome. If the organization is very conservative and is not allowing any space for error and failing, it's challenging.
Yeah, you need to give sort of people psychological safety as well. They need to feel like, I can be involved in an innovation project, and if it doesn't go well, it's not going to affect my year-end performance appraisal. I'm not going to get, punished for it. So building that culture and convincing even our senior stakeholders that it's okay to trial where it doesn't impact safety, of course, for the airline, and also bringing our employees along the journey, so they don't feel like innovation exists in an island. It's completely cut off from whatever they're doing day to day, but it's there really to help them do their jobs better, help us interact with our guests better. That's when you get the whole organization galvanized together, and they really believe in it, and they're excited to try new things, and then they help push it forward, because there's only this much a small innovation team can do on its own.
Perfect. Nick, how is it in Virgin? Again, you're a little bit, obviously, innovation culturally, there is a lot of innovation came out of Virgin in general, when you talk about the products and how it's been done, but not so much maybe on the technical side. So how do you see, what are the biggest challenges within your company?
So I promise that Ling and I haven't spoken before on this, but actually I would just completely reiterate exactly what she just talked about there. That cultural change, I think, is really the first step to break down when it comes to innovation. I think that innovation is all about the balance for the executives out there that are signing off, huge or relatively big cost projects. That balance, that cost versus the reward versus the risk. And I think that it's that balance that needs to be story told at the very beginning to ensure that they are comfortable, as Kaylin was saying, that they are comfortable with what can happen, what the potential is, what that potential loss is if that does happen. But for me, I think that when we look at Virgin Atlantic and kind of the year that we've had and how we are approaching, with a much more digital based mindset now, it's how that cost, reward and risk fits into the bigger picture. Because I think, all airlines, ourselves specifically, have lost, unfortunately, a lot of people. We're a lot smaller, we're a lot more agile. So it's how does whatever that innovative idea, process, whatever that looks like, how does that fit into the wider company vision and concept about where we want to be? And it's how that story is told. So I think that if you look at a lot of innovators out there, if you look at a lot of tech companies, as Kaylin was saying, that kind of tech speak that I can do this and do whatever that looks like, that doesn't necessarily resonate with an airline that may not be as used to hearing that, and it's not a tech company, and it doesn't have that kind of level of experience in dealing with that. So it's the storytelling and how they can build that in to the wider company vision. And if you find that match, I think that's a great place to be. But finding that match initially, finding those pieces of the puzzle and fitting them together is very, very tough.
And how do you, one of the things, we talk about failure and its cultural change. The second thing that normally you see with organization in the early stage is that they try to do innovation internally and don't really want to collaborate because they think that if they're going to innovate, they want to keep it for themselves. I mean, is this something which is really not how things work today, because the world is very big, and in order to innovate, you need to collaborate, and you really need to almost like cast your net as wide as possible to get as many ideas as possible out there and try and choose the one that best fit for you. But do you see that your organization is open to external innovation, or they still feel that most innovation should come internally?
I do think that, speaking on behalf of Virgin Atlantic, I do think we are open. Look, we're a global airline, like Etihad, like JAL, and we're looking for global solutions. We recognise that we don't have all the answers ourselves, and that there are other people, very intelligent people, that have some really great solutions, and we're open to it, absolutely. But I mean, that's on behalf of us.
Okay, Akira, what about JAL? And tell us a little bit about also the Japanese culture. Do you see, I mean, you've been studied overseas in the UK, you worked in different locations around the world. Dealing with Japanese companies, even from my experience, and when you see it also with the Israeli ecosystem, there is actually quite a lot of presence from Japanese companies in the last couple of years. However, Japanese companies are very slow to move, and Israeli startup are not always as patient when it gets to not being agile and respond quickly to the different needs. So tell us a little bit about innovation in your company, and do you think that the Japanese culture impacted one way or the other?
Well, that's a very good question. I obviously can't speak for all Japanese companies, but I think there are some what make perhaps say tendencies one should perhaps bear in mind. I think all Japanese companies, like the rest of the world, we want speed to market, but that's not always the most important thing that we consider. I think we place a lot of emphasis on meeting very, very demanding customer needs, especially here in Japan, whereby you have to meet a lot of criteria in order to pass the test. So very often when we think of, oh, maybe just have a good enough MVP to start off with, it's not always an acceptable idea in Japan, because consumers expect things to be perfect. They expect you to look into the details and expect you to consider all the contingencies of how things could go wrong, and when they go wrong, how are you going to actually cope with all these issues. So we do invest quite a lot of time in going through a lot of sort of thought exercises in thinking of how we'll respond to this situation and all that. That's one of the reasons why things might take a little bit longer when it comes to reaching a decision. And it's also partly what Ling said earlier on, when we try to bring in technology into a very large organization. Obviously, we want to keep abreast with the latest technology and the best practices, but we want to do it not just for the sake of using technology for the sake of technology, but really to think in terms of what value we are adding to consumers. And like what Nick said, does it really fit the situation our company is currently in order to get not just to buy in, but also to make it work in a practical sense. So there is this element there. But another thing worth mentioning is I think the way of decision making in Japan is very much not top-down majority vote kind of thing. It's a very much we go through a process whereby we get consensus on multiple levels of the organization. So we want to make sure that the middle managers understand all the technical details of the solution or the new technology, so that we know that, for example, we don't have to worry about interoperability. We don't have to worry about linking that system to some legacy systems. So we need all the details. So we have that layer. We also have the management VP layer, whereby we think, how can we add value and grow our business with that? And obviously we have the financial concerns, looking at, will this investment really pay off in the long run? So many things to consider, which may be one of the reasons why some cultures might find us a little bit slow in reaching a decision. But once we've made a decision, we tend to go very fast.
So what would you say, and the same goes for all three of you, but Akira, what would you say is one or two most important things that you can say to tell a startup that want to work with Japan Airline? You know, what do they need to do? Or what have you seen maybe that people don't do the right way? Not just Israelis, again, there is a cultural difference here, but any startup that you dealt with in the past.
I think this applies to all cultures and all countries, is to really know the audience. As I mentioned, if you're talking to a very sort of technical minded people who wants to know how the algorithms work, how you're applying this technology, then you really need to go into details and not just give a big rosy picture that you just buy into the solution and everything will be blissful. But if you're talking to more senior management, obviously you want to avoid too much of technical issues and just go straight to the benefit it will bring to your company and to the customers. So again, it really depends on paying attention to the audience, who they are, and give them what they need. I think this applies to all cultures.
Okay. Ling?
Yeah, I think I agree with what Akira said. Really, it's so important for the startups to also come with their homework done. You know, make sure you understand who you're speaking to, the likely problem statements that the corporate is having. So we find that those conversations we have where the startup comes ready, you know, telling us, for instance, this is our solution and this is how we see it fitting within Etihad's world. Those are the conversations that move the quickest, because they've already done their homework to understand what Etihad is about, versus someone who comes with a generic pitch. And then it takes time for us to tease out what exactly is the solution, if there's any right fit for us, and there's a fair bit of back and forth. But if the startup comes prepared, knowing who they're speaking to and knowing the challenge statements, or even better yet, some of the best ones I've seen, they've come ready with a proposal for a pilot. You know, I think this solution will fit you and this is how we can roll it out immediately. It helps kick the tires a little quicker. It drives us to make decisions as well. So that would be my suggestion.
We actually had a question from the audience, Sanjay Nadkarni from Dubai. Actually, Sanjay, you wrote the questions. I read it, and I don't know if because I read it, it disappeared, or it's or because you took it off. But he was asking a little bit about Etihad and how do you reach to local startups also in Dubai. And do you try to reach, because I know we've been talking a lot with Sanjay and different people in Dubai, and they are trying to develop an ecosystem and bring different startups from around the world to work with local companies.
Yeah, I've actually answered that question. That's probably why it's disappeared for you, Rom.
Okay.
But the short answer to that is yes, we definitely are open to working with startups, not just from the UAE, but globally. Dubai's just across the border. So yes, we work closely with them. Drop us a line at any time. We receive lots of cold calls as well. But apart from that, we also run programs, accelerator programs, and we launch challenge statements out to the market as well. So anytime you see some of those, please respond, and we're happy to listen to anyone with interesting solutions.
Perfect. So Nick, do you have anything to add on this, or if not, I have plenty of other questions.
No, I think what's great here is for the audience over that are listening to this, and hopefully there's a lot of startups out there. You're hearing from Japan Airlines, Etihad, and Virgin Atlantic, three of the best airlines in the world, and we're all saying exactly the same thing, right? Because actually, my answer to this, and again, I can promise you that we haven't collaborated on this before, because otherwise you could have just invited one of us to the panel. But it's all about doing that homework, right? So all three of us here are speaking on behalf of different airlines, and we're all gatekeepers to a certain extent, right? And it's breaking down that gatekeeper entrance. I think that's the most important thing. And you're never going to get anywhere with a generic response. You're never going to get anywhere with a, hey, I've got a great idea, and I'd love to tell you more about it, right? As Ling and Akira were both saying, the three things that I would say from an Israeli, and don't get me wrong, Israelis are the most enthusiastic and bright and just amazing people. But I think that Israelis
aggressive.
Well,
one of the adjectives you should
mine,
have.
But
that's the guys from Dubai that been bombarded with like 500,000 Israelis coming there.
It's a culture shock. It's a culture shock, as Akira was saying, right? It's the three things that I would say is similar to Ling is know the business. Know what the business is about, know where they go, know some of the routes, know some of the aircraft, know some of the vision, the outline of the company, the stuff that you can read online, know that. Second one is know who you want to talk to. And I've had a lot of cold calls being in Israel of people that just say, look, I want to speak to the business development team. I want to speak to, it's people in management, generic statements like that. I don't know where to take that. So I need to know who you've used to work with, what specific area of the business this is involved with, how you think that your solution can kind of take forward a particular area or team or person, what that is, and a bit of detail around that. And I think the third one is, I love the idea of kicking the tires, because the third one that I had was really know the difference that you can make and how you want to do it. So are you looking for investment? Are you looking for partnership? Are you just looking for proof of concept? What are you looking for from the airline? Because that helps us, and I'll speak on behalf of Ling and Akira, and please guys do correct me if I'm wrong, but it just helps us kind of decide, is it a good fit? Is it not culturally? Is it not a good fit? Is it the right solution for us at the right time? And all this piecemeal, it allows us to kind of bring it all together and pitch it back into the business.
So somebody has a question for you, Nick, following on this comment, is if you can give an example of storytelling elements in an innovation initiative that fitted the big picture, that resonate with the company's vision. And I know that you probably get quite a lot, even though that you're more on the commercial side, I'm sure that you get a lot of Israeli startup knocking your door just because of being accessible here in Israel. So
yeah,
did you see anything that resonated, that the pitch or the storytelling fitted well?
In all honesty, I'll be very honest, and I'll say that I actually haven't seen best in class yet. I think that there is a lot more that that startups, my advice anyway, but there's a lot more that startups can look at around that initial sales pitch. They've probably got a cracking idea that sits underneath it, but there's not one example that I can come to you and say, look, these guys did an amazing job of pitching this to us, and we've actually really taken this forward, because a lot of it falls flat if it doesn't have that level of detail, if it doesn't have that level of kind of insight behind it into really understanding who we are as a business. But the kind of things that I would be expecting are really for somebody to turn around to us and say, look, this is how this product came to this is how the solution came to life. This is the problem that we identified. This is what we see is a great way of doing it. We've trialed it over here. We've had these results. We know that we work with these people really well, and we're looking to really understand what we can do with you, because you fly to, I don't know, the US, or you fly 787s, or you fly, you're about customer journeys, and you're very high touch, whatever it is within the business. It's that kind of, that initial approach that I think is very important. And I call out there to startups to really just to work on that, to enable us to make that better decision making at that first stage.
I also want to add to that, that is absolutely crucial what Nick just mentioned, is this 3 states, the value that you're proposing, because very often in many pitches that I've been through, it's not always very clear. Are you saying that you are a niche player that provides something that no one else provides currently? Or are you saying that you are a better alternative than many of the players out there because of such and such a reason? Or are you saying that I am someone who could fit into your business ecosystem and be part of your business ecosystem because I am, for example, agnostic to whatever other systems that you're using? So repositioning yourselves in a way that the airline would understand would be a very good way to position and explain who you are.
Okay, I'm sorry, there is noise here. There's the gardener is outside, and so I muted it. But I think that it goes back to very typical sale to any vertical. Often you need to do homework, so you know how to adjust the pitch to the person you're pitching to versus just have a generic. And it's just a lot of work and a lot of research, and not just getting in front of the right person. But I want to ask you last question before we're going to see the startups, and then we're going to come back to our discussion. And I just want to understand from you how your priorities from innovation changed since March of last year. And overall, we know that it's a big shock for the travel industry and the airline industry in general, but what happened to your priorities? I mean, is budget were just cut, or they were reduced but still diverted to other things, where your priority changed dramatically from one thing to another? If you can share a little bit about this, it would be great. Who would like to start?
Maybe I'll give it a go first. So from Etihad, at least what we saw was when the impact of the pandemic started becoming apparent to our business, we had to do what I believe every other airline had to do. We had to rationalize our investments. So we had to look at all of the projects we had in our pipeline, and to be honest, we had to stop a number of those initiatives. Sadly, we had to slow down some of them, but at the same time, we ended up accelerating some other projects that were not high on the priority list, just because the landscape was changing so quickly. So for instance, pre-pandemic, I would say we might have given more attention to solutions that would help us sell ancillaries on board. But as a result of the pandemic, we weren't even seeing passengers flying. So we had to quickly refocus. How do we create confidence in our travelers to begin with? They're not thinking about buying an expensive piece of an expensive perfume on board anymore. They're thinking about, can I fly this plane, and can I fly onto this flight and not catch COVID? So that very quickly became sort of our immediate I would say response, looking through our project portfolio and figuring out what are must-dos in the right moment, in that moment, and what we could reprioritize again. Budgets will definitely impacted, but I would say that we still managed to invest in projects that prove to be beneficial for our guests as well as for the business, and it's continuing now. So we still have projects in our pipeline. They're constantly being reviewed. The situation is fairly dynamic. We see changes when it comes to consumer demand, with new borders opening and closing, new changes in the pandemic situation as well. So that's impacting our decisions as well. But the good thing is we've sort of moved from, I would say, April, May, when we were sort of in a panic mode, when lots of projects just got stopped in the near term, we've now adjusted to this new normal a little. We've taken a longer view when it comes to looking at projects as well.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Kylie. Nick, do you want to try take on the same topic?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think that every airline out there, not just the three of us on this panel today, we've been focused on survival. That has really been the most important thing for us. We have to survive as an airline and as an industry. To take away the level of demand that there has been for such a sustained period of time, that has to be the number one priority. So I think that there have been some things that have slipped, as Kellen was saying. But I think with any good, world events that really shifts the status quo, like it has done with COVID-19, it does present some opportunity for change. And I think for us, what we have adopted throughout this process is realign those priorities and rationalize some of the business areas that we want to develop. And Shai, our CEO, Ash, the CIO, and Yuha, the CCO, have all looked at and adopted this more digital mindset. And I think that what that really means for us and where our priority is now, and actually COVID has probably helped us really define what it is that we want to do, but it's about enabling our customers to be more self-service on multi-platforms through the omni-channel presence, through the website, through the app. That's absolutely going to be our priority this year. It's around the messaging solutions, old school SMS, but through WhatsApp and other kind of things that are out there as well. And then that helps us have a little bit less reliance on the call center and have a much more kind of customer-focused, customer-centered digital experience than we probably have had in the past. So that's really kind of come into the forefront as to our mindset as a result of COVID. But there's, as you say, there's probably been a lot of stuff out there that unfortunately has had to be sidelined or kind of removed in terms of priorities, simply because there hasn't been the scope around it.
So to an extent, you're saying that the pandemic really accelerated processes that were already taking place, but maybe us as an industry, we're kind of sitting in the back seat because we were not so comfortable with it and wanted to see what other people are doing. So a lot of the digitalization, look, a lot of innovation that you see in the travel industry, for example, like self-service kiosks, came from the airline more than any other vertical within the industry. And often it was because the airline were forced to do it. Gas prices went up, margins went down, so you had to be forced to be more efficient. And what we see in the pandemic is, I think, like Ling said, first it's survival, and what do I need to do to keep on cutting costs, but also keep on flying as far as COVID, showing monitoring people and bring this element of safety to our industry, back to the people flying with us. Second, it just was about automation, both from a cost-cutting perspective, but also from a lot of touchless, looking for touchless solution, like you mentioned in the call center, SMS. And the third thing that we start seeing is really incremental revenue. So the airline needs this revenue that they are losing to look at other. And we will see it in a second after Akira. I'll let Akira speak, and then we'll see. It's a good segue to see our 3 startups. Akira, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, exactly what you're trying. A good introduction to what I'm about to say. So in addition to prioritizing to conserving cash and looking at the customer facing side in addressing a lot of issues around safety, hygiene, digitalization, selfless, contactless, and all that, exactly how can we leverage our capabilities to generate new revenue streams, but at the same time to also meet the expectation we have currently that especially in this new year, how can we come up with new ideas in this new normal and bring out something new? So we have been looking into sort of expanding our definition of air transport from just being an airline to doing things like how can we, for example, use drones or vertical takeoff landing vehicles to ship medical supplies to remote places in Japan. We have been testing that as well. So these will be areas whereby we will be leveraging our capabilities, generating new revenue streams, but at the same time solving problems much needed currently in the situation here in Japan.
Perfect. So I'll ask you guys to mute yourself and turn off your camera, and we will move to our 3 startups. What we like to do is actually we'd like to bring a variety. So 3 startups, each one has only 3 minutes, and we like to bring a variety. We like to bring startups that are not from the travel industry, but their solution can fit perfectly to the travel industry. So really thinking outside of the box, as well as startups that are not from the startup that are from the travel industry, what we call travel tech natives. Ofer, can you please just turn off your camera, and I will introduce Tomer. Thank you. So the first to present will be Tomer Epstein from Biobeat. Tomer is experienced business development manager in the healthcare industry with vast knowledge and expertise in medical device and digital health domain, with deep understanding of technology, KPI, and differentiation in a competitive landscape. A medical engineer by training, backed with several product design and development project and MBA graduate from Tel Aviv University, Tomer is the Director of Strategic Partnership for Biobeat. So Tomer, please, let's see your presentation. Let's see Biobeat's product.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tomer Epstein. I'm the Director of Strategic Partnerships at Biobeat. I'll be presenting Biobeat solutions for the aviation industry. Biobeat is trying to tackle the on-flight medical emergencies. On average, there are more than 14,000 medical emergencies per year per airline, which in 8% of those medical emergencies do require the aircraft to change its route. 30% of those cases can actually be resolved during the flight, but do require more information and insights on the passengers, on the patients, which at the moment are lacking because they don't have a monitoring tool on an airplane. A typical case of emergency is either a passenger with chest pain, difficulty of breathing, or a reduced level of consciousness. So Biobeat is trying to aim that problem using the Biobeat chest monitor. The chest monitor is a very lightweight, very small, portable, doesn't really take a lot of space in an aircraft, and has a shelf life of 3 years. It's very easy to use, can be used also by a non-medical staff. That small sensor can gather 15 different measurements: the blood saturation, the continuous blood pressure, heart rate, one-lead ECG, respiratory rate, skin temperature, and more. We have, of course, the clinical validation, the required regulation, also by the FDA, by the CE, by the Health Canada, by the TGA, by Australia, and others. We have the required data security standards because we don't save any sensitive data and identification data at Biobeat. The solution is an end-to-end one, meaning that the patch, the chest monitor, is being placed on the patient, connects to Bluetooth to the tablet, then through the Wi-Fi the data is being gathered to the web platform. At the web platform, either the cabin crew or the control on ground can look at the patient's state, can analyze his current situation, and can have a decision regarding the next steps. And as I mentioned previously, 30% of those situations can be resolved using a good understanding of the situation and the medical state of that patient. We have also an early warning score that can alert on deterioration of patients, which is also an essential tool to use during those kind of cases. We've implemented advanced health AI algorithms that can assist with the decision support. At the beginning of 2020, before COVID erupted, we tested and validated our solution with a lab, and we saw a very good compliance in terms of the system, and also with the staff, and also with the operation of the devices. Our solution, Biobeat chest monitor solution, is an essential medical tool on airlines. Very low weight, very simple and easy to use, can be used by non-medical staff, can increase the passenger trust, can reduce the diversions of the aircraft, and of course, to cost savings. This is a solution that is very relevant also during COVID times, and also, of course, post-COVID times. So thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions that might come.
Thank you very much, Tomer. So Tomer is gonna stay on mute and until we see the other two companies. And the next one is Yosi Avraham from Whilefly. Yosi is a serial entrepreneur with vast experience in sales, global marketing, and key positions in R&D. Previously, Yosi led the business development for Gilat and was responsible for the in-flight connectivity for commercial aviation. Yosi holds MBA in finance and marketing and BSc in electrical engineering. Yosi is the CEO and co-founder of Whilefly. Yosi, please go ahead and let's see what Whilefly does.
Hi, and welcome. My name is Yosi Avraham, CEO and co-founder of Whilefly. Whilefly introduced a very unique solution and business model for airlines like you. We enable passengers to use their mobile device and consume rich content during the flight time. Whilefly monetizes its service from advertisement, selling product and services on board, and offer attractions at the destination at a very competitive price. We share our revenues with our partner, you, the airlines, helping them to improve their profit without taking any financial risk on their behalf. So how it works? Whilefly equipped every airplane in the service with a small size server that is fully automated and can be carried by the air crew or catering company. The server itself is placed on the overhead bin and operate with batteries. Nothing to install, no downtime to your fleet. From this point, everything is done automatically. Content is updated before every flight, payments are being processed upon landing, and passengers use their idle time to generate revenues for the airlines. Whilefly servers are certified by the aviation authorities of the US and European, EASA and FAA. Corona has made a significant change in our industry. Airlines are forced to think differently and look for an alternative source of revenues while keeping their budget very, very tight. Whilefly is positioned at the right spot, offering such service at no cost for the airline. We have digitized the duty-free on board and offer food and beverage upsell. Ordering food and duty-free product has never been so easy. We offer airlines to maximum the potential of their onboard sales, reducing the time and their interaction with the passenger and manage inventory on board. Whilefly is growing very fast. We already signed major contracts with key airlines, and we are welcoming you to join our solution and benefit from our diverse content and rev share program. We can start tomorrow. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much, Yosi. No cost is very good. I'm sure everybody in the panel like no cost. Next, we have, last but not least, we have Ofer Shoham. Ofer is a food processing hygiene specialist and agriculture engineer. He served as a food processing hygiene director and business development manager for Middle East and Africa C-Leader, and as the director of food hygiene at Diversity Israel. Currently offers service Biofence CEO, a startup company from the Kitchen Hub portfolio. Ofer, let's see what Biofence is doing.
Touching is a divine gift, giving us the ability to connect, to communicate. Touching is no longer safe. Contaminated surfaces are all around us, in our home, in our work, while traveling, or enjoying dinner in a restaurant. So what can be done? Surfaces can be sanitized with chlorine to reduce contamination. Chlorine is the #1 sanitizer. A powerful, safe, environmental friendly, and economical. But chlorine doesn't last. Minutes after applying, it is no longer active, leaving the surfaces unprotected and allows pathogens to grow and reach dangerous levels. We need to sanitize again and again in order to maintain hygiene and be safe. Imagine we can touch again. Imagine we can freely touch our loved ones, our friends, our colleagues. Imagine we can freely touch surfaces around us. Biofence developed the solution. Hi, I'm Ofer Shoham, Biofence CEO. Together with a talented and experienced team, we are presenting a new way to ensure long-lasting hygiene. By adding our innovating polymer to paints and coatings applied on surfaces, we can bind and stabilize chlorine for a long period of time, providing long-lasting antimicrobial and antiviral activity. With Biofence technology, we can achieve long-lasting hygiene, keeping the surfaces clean with no need for continuous sanitation. We proved that Biofence coating can destroy millions of viruses on surfaces treated with chlorine a month before the test. We are answering a strong need in a $7 billion market with paints for aviation and public places, with flexible coatings for touchscreen and elevators, and with temporary coatings for household use. Collaborating with global leading paint and coating companies in the aviation industry, we can provide long-lasting hygiene all around the passenger and all along the flight, dramatically reducing the time and efforts needed today for a better hygiene in aircraft cabin. After concluding a round-day fund, we are expanding our team, accelerating scale-up in industrial production, further on develop flexible coatings and products for the household market. Let's work together to provide a safer world.
Thank you very much, Ofer. Please, everybody turn on back your camera, the speakers, as well as the 3 startups. If anybody from the audience has any questions, feel free to send a question. If anybody from the panelists, Ling, Nick, or Akira, if you have any questions, please do so. Feel free to jump in. So first of all, I just wanted to show you that we kind of chose a variety of startups. So if you look at, we had basically biotech company. We have a food tech company, correct? Ofer, you are normally tagged as a food tech, or that's where you started. And then we have Whilefly that is a pure travel. And the beauty of the ecosystem of Israel is that you have thousands and thousands of startups, and often the ones that are not the pure travel are very difficult to find and bring them to the travel industry because they work with many other verticals. So I'd like to start maybe with asking Tomer and Ofer, were your solution, was it from the beginning designed for the travel industry? Did you pivot? And how is it working with the travel industry versus other verticals?
Ofer, do you want to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So no, Biobeat, we haven't started in the aviation industry, but we did saw a large market also within that industry, because healthcare is all around us. Of course, our main aim and focus was in the hospitals, but as we started providing a solution for the hospitals, we did saw that there are additional verticals and additional sectors that our solutions would be relevant, because providing a remote patient monitoring tool is relevant for all around us, meaning either at home, at your vehicle, on a travel, on the go, if you're on vacation, business trip, and of course on an airplane. On an airplane, it's a closed cage, as we all know it. And if there's a medical situation that might occur, although it's not a large percentage that it does occur in general, but when it does occur, it is a big case for the airline, for the patient, for the staff, and also, of course, for the family. And in 30% of the cases, it can be avoidable with a good understanding of the passenger, the patient healthcare state. And only by providing a small monitoring device, you can really eliminate that need of worriedness and anxiety for both the airline, the staff, and also the patient himself, only by having a good monitoring product that can assist for the decision makers, for the healthcare staff, to have a better decision regarding the treatment and the next steps.
Okay, thank you. Tomer, when you look at the, I mean, obviously a startup, often that's what I'm trying to evangelize in the travel industry, to explain people that often they don't compete with each other. They really compete with other verticals. So the three different airlines here, they don't really compete with each other. They really compete, like you mentioned, automotive industry, remote care, you know, elderly, putting in people. So how do you choose, you know, what makes you decide to go after one vertical versus another? Because at the end of the day, you're very limited with resources. You need to choose the path of least resistance. There is regulation. So what makes you choose one versus the other?
Yes.
Same for you, Ofer, because your solution also can fit, obviously, restaurant, hotel, casinos. That's just in our industry, but it can be hospital and many other places.
So first, that's a very good question. And I think that every startup really has that same decisions which market to go, either geographically or vertically. I will answer by from our experience. So regarding nursing homes, of course, everybody knows that there is a huge market to go there and to sell the products for the elderly, but still their lack of finance in terms of paying for the devices and the services. When you look at the hospitals, of course, you see that there's a big need to monitor patients that aren't being monitored, but still the regulation, the FDA clearance that you need in the US market, and additional barriers like convincing the doctors that it does work are a barrier, but it's still a very large market. When you look at the automotive for our device, regulation-wise, it's still a long way to go, but probably in the next 5 to 7 years, every car will have some monitoring sensors that would be able to monitor patients or drivers from the distance. And regarding aviation as well, we do see pre-COVID that there was a large interest, and we had some experience also with British Airways and El Al. But that kind of, we worked with the innovation unit or in those organizations, but it kind of pushed aside due to COVID. And we all know that it really affected the landscape of the aviation industry and increased other industries as well, like home care, telemedicine, and hospitals. So we can kind of divide it into pre-COVID, during COVID, and post-COVID. Pre-COVID, we did saw that industry is really increasing and gaining a lot of value for us, and I believe that from the aviation industry in each airline as well. During COVID, everything kind of shut down, and post-COVID, things are trying to align again, and how to manage the situation, how to adapt, and what would be a solution that could assist both the passengers to gain more confidence to travel again, and both the airlines regarding what they can do to have that confidence for their passengers, and also to have some leaderships in opposed to other airlines, because healthcare is something that we are all aware now that it's important, and we all putting our emphasis on it more than before.
Thank you, Tomer. Just there is one question from the audience, actually, Ofer from El Al. Hi, Ofer. Long time no talk, no see. But she's asking if do you have it with any other airline already in place other than El Al? Your solution?
So currently the solution was only validated in both British Airways and El Al, but we haven't yet done an implementation on the solution. It was the moment for a validation.
Perfect. Thank you. Ofer, do you want to add about your product and how it fit into the industry?
Thank you, Rom. I will start by addressing the first question about where we started looking at what kind of activity. Mainly food safety was our first task. You know, the issue of trying to address the problem of pathogens like Listeria, Salmonella, in E. coli and food production. A big problem with food contamination, and that was we're looking at the first and the initial step. Lucky for us, we got approached by the companies, mainly the paint and coating companies, which are dealing with public transportation, aviation, as they saw the opportunity with our technology to address the problem in the aviation industry. I'm talking about way before the COVID-19. I'm talking early 2019. Of course, the COVID-19 boosted our activity, and we actually now are busy with few global paint and coatings company that are working in the aviation industry, because this is a highly regulated area. We are not in a situation to develop our own paint and coatings, but we're working with global leading companies. By the way, I got approached by Etihad a few weeks ago regarding our solution. So yes, we found ourselves drawing into that area, and I look at the COVID-19 issue as, from my side, as an hygiene crisis, because and I know a lot about hygiene. This is what I've done for the last 40 years almost, and what we can find out now that we, among other verticals, we are more and more drawn into the aviation industry, but also, of course, hospitals, hospitality, food production and food services, and even entertainment. You remember our talk a few weeks ago about the casino industry. So everywhere there is a need for a technology that will make us feel safer again. And if you're looking at flying by focus on flying, it is a stressful experience by itself. So add to that the thought that you maybe get contaminated with virus, and before that, we know there is a lot of evidence showing that hazard pathogens, the same one that exists in hospitals, like the antibiotic-resistant bacteria, they exist in airplanes. So yes, we are surrounded with pathogens and viruses, and the beauty of our solution that it's versatile. You can use it everywhere, because we can add our polymer into any material, and by that convert it into a very powerful antimicrobial and antiviral solution without the need to do different modification to the cleaning and sanitation chemicals that used today in that verticals. So we take ordinary chemicals that has been used today, and we just tie them to the surface for a long time, and by that providing the missing solution for us to feel safe traveling, to feel safe staying in a hotel, to feel safe eating in a restaurant, and so on. So yes,
There are some people in the audience, actually, I responded it in the chat, asking to get the startup's contact. So we're going to send it after this, because we have people from the hotel industry that, again, this solution specifically fit. Today, again, if you can go to and touch a slot machine time after time, and you don't need every time to clean it, same thing for an airline, the same thing for a restaurant. I mean, it's a huge, it's a huge thing. As long as you make customer aware of it, because otherwise they're afraid, wait, how come they don't clean it every time after each person? But there are ways we've seen with startup that developed things around pools, you know, to that all kind of solution for pools that kill COVID. As long as you put a sign out there and people know that it was treated, it actually increased utilization enormously. So they said that some people in Israel just wanted to buy the sign and not buy the actual machine, because people use it. So let's go. I'm sorry.
That we look at the COVID as an opportunity. It's a crisis, and any crisis is an opportunity to do something better, something new. But we don't look at the COVID is that our solution only for the COVID. Our solution was before the COVID, and it will have the same importance after the COVID. And because as the World Health Organization declare, the next pandemic is around the corner. So unfortunately, so we're here to stay and to be developed. And of course, what you're looking for is to do that with airline companies, collaborating with the leading global paint and coating provider for the airline industry. And we ready to use that. And some of our POCs have ultimately been already validated in other verticals.
So let's jump to Yosi, Whilefly. So basically, if I summarize your product, not only you save cost on an entertainment solution for the airline, you're free and you're revenue share, correct? So you're actually giving them ancillary revenue, which is quite a cool model. That said, I know that you fit specifically in LCCs, low-cost carriers. How does it fit into domestic, short haul? Is it only wide body, short, narrow body? Tell us a little bit about how your product fit above and beyond the low-cost carrier.
Sure. So as a startup, we need to focus because the money is always limited, and we need to find who is our target audience. We have decided to focus on low-cost airlines and domestic airlines, mainly all those who have a narrow body, one aisle inside the aircraft, which we find most of them not equipped with multimedia system. The long-haul flights are basically equipped, and we are not in a position that we want to fight on something that is actually already been deployed. We find that our model is best fit for those airlines as well, because not only that they need the multimedia on board and they are avoiding to do so because of the high cost involved in that, but they are also keen to generate more revenues. Based on the analysis that we have done with one of the European airline, which is trading, in the stock market, so everything is quite open, we found out that we can improve their profitability, the bottom line, between 2.5 to 3%, which is a lot, given the fact that they do not take any risk on their behalf. And the idea is that we look at the airline as our partners. We need to motivate the passenger to use the system on board, and that's why we share money with the airlines. We receive phenomenal numbers of usage. About 70% of the passengers were using our services on board, which is more than double than we see in other multimedia on board solutions as of today.
Very good. I just want to ask Akira, Nick, and Ling, do you have any question for them before I continue? No pressure. I have plenty, and we are running out of time as well. So
I've just got a question for Tomer, maybe also a suggestion. have you thought of working directly with telemedicine providers? Because it's one thing knowing the data about the health of the passenger or you know, on board, right? The next best action is what do we do next? So, for example, with Etihad, we partner with a telemedicine provider, and when we have medical emergencies on board, our crew has managed to can make a call out to the doctors and know what is the next best action. I would imagine a product like yours would be best if it's bundled together with a telemedicine provider, and they therefore know that, you know, whatever you provide is medically certified, and they can read the data accordingly and provide the advisory accordingly. Just a thought.
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good point. And definitely in two sides, both patients and in, let's say, an environment, you would need a mediator that would be on the healthcare side that could do the prognosis and the analysis of the data. To be honest, I wasn't aware that for the airline segment, there is those telemedicine providers that they usually work with. So this is very interesting input, and I'll be happy if you could also share with me some more inputs later on about that. But it's more common and something that we're working more on to provide care at home. So there are few telemedicine companies that we're working with in the US and Europe that do as their own members to provide home care for the citizen. But thank you very much. That's a very good input.
Thank you. Any other questions? I have a quick question for the three of you. So all three of you are based in Israel, correct? Obviously, based on your pitch, your market is not Israel, is overseas. So why are you based in Israel? Is it just because that's where you live and it's where you are? Or is there any benefit of being in Israel because of the ecosystem? Or is it something that you're planning to change around the road? Because again, at the end of the day, your market will be elsewhere. Anybody?
Okay, Yosi, you can start. You didn't speak at the end.
Sorry, we were on the same time. I think Israel is a great place to be when you want to do an innovative things. We are a small country, so we are not targeting the Israeli market. But we think globally from the first day. The main idea is that the ecosystem is very supportive. So I can go to any CEO, no matter what size of the company he has or manage, pick up the phone, call him or his secretary and say, listen, I have a problem. You are in the same field. I want to get your advice. And he will welcome me, and we can sit together maximum 7 days from the call and get everything that I need, so it's free my time, which is great because you manage to learn new things from people with experience. You get also support from the government with so many different programs that they have, and you can find a very good, talented people regarding to R&D. But at the end of the day, it's just the core business to develop something here, but you always have to think globally. So I really like to be in Israel, and I'm proud to be an Israeli and do the innovative here.
I call it the prisoner dilemma. Israel is like a prison. We're all inmates, and we're all helping each other trying to escape.
I would like to say that we are in an aquarium, but a research aquarium, okay? We are ready to go to the ocean afterwards.
Yeah. Ofer, did you want to add?
Yeah, I think that I fully agree with Yosi regarding that Israel is a small place. Everybody knows everybody, so the distance between the idea and the POC is very short. We are less busy with protocols and formalities, so things can start. It's for the good and for the worse, of course. But from my side is that the Israel ecosystem is very nurturing. Startups starting from the incubator system and the Israeli Innovation Authority that support us financially and later on in other programs as a new company. But I think the main thing is that Israel is a place that you can move from the theoretical thing to the practical thing in a very short time. And as the COVID-19, for example, face us with a lot of challenges. This is actually why we're also dealing with the innovation industry. We want to move from a solution that is now ready to the POC as fast as possible. And unfortunately, the Israeli aviation industry is not that big. So collaborating with people like you can be beneficial for us and of course for all of the world. So this is why we are in Israel and why we want to work with international companies. So it's on both sides. The other thing is that we actually chemical innovation. So the chemical industry in Israel is very progress. And we are collaborating with the largest chemical companies in Israel, and that's a big benefit for us.
Very good. I think there are just a couple of things to add and the Israeli ecosystem in general. First of all, as was mentioned before, I mean, the market is not Israel. So Israeli startups are willing to work with any geographical location in the world. So unlike the US, if you are working with companies that are based in Silicon Valley, non-US based companies are being pushed to a second tier because it's just more difficult. It's easier for me to work with American companies speaking the same language, same culture. Then I grow and I can go to the other. In Israel, it doesn't exist because the Israeli market is not a real option. The second thing is that there is a lot in Israel, because again, there is no market, there are way more B2B solutions than B2C, like in other markets. If you go to China, if you go to the US and Europe, the market is so big, so company can raise much easier money for B2C solution. Well, in Israel, it's quite difficult. So even if they start as a B2C, you see them after 6 months very quickly pivoting into the B2B. So we're almost out of time. So I just want to finish with a quick game, okay? And the rule is very simple. You just need to answer with one word, okay? Only one, not more than one. So I have here a few questions I'm going to ask you. We're going to start with let's start with Ling, because I don't know how you see it. Each one can set it differently. We'll go to Nick, Akira, and then almost like we'll do Ling, Akira, Nick, like the presentation, Tomer, Yosi, and Ofer, and you just answer, okay? Very quickly. So the first question is about messaging app. WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegram, Signal, Line, Messenger.
Signal.
Akira,
Line.
Of course. Nick.
WhatsApp.
Tomer.
Yeah, definitely WhatsApp at the moment.
Yosi.
WhatsApp, still WhatsApp.
Ofer.
I prefer talking with people, but WhatsApp is good.
That's more than one word. Okay, next one. Apple or Android?
Apple.
Akira?
Apple.
Apple.
Android, guys.
Ofer?
Android, yeah, I'm too old to use new things.
Next one. Cruise or all-inclusive resort?
All inclusive.
All
Resort.
inclusive.
All inclusive.
Tomer?
Yeah, all inclusive.
Same here.
Ofer? You like to stay home?
I like to sail, but not on a cruise. So, but cruising is
More than one word. Okay, next one. Paris or New York City?
New York.
Paris.
New York.
France.
Tomer?
New York.
Paris, with all the romantics inside.
Ofer?
New York.
Very good. You cannot cruise to Paris. Long haul or short haul, Ling?
Long haul.
Long haul.
Definitely long haul.
Long haul.
Guys, short haul for sure.
Ofer?
Long haul. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm getting to the end. SpaceX, Blue Origin or Virgin Galactic? We know what Nick's gonna choose if he wants to keep his job.
Virgin.
Virgin Galactic.
Wow, easy. SpaceX.
They're just being nice to you because you guys are colleagues. Tomer,
SpaceX.
I will go with Nick, Virgin.
Ofer.
Virgin, because he's there.
Okay, last question. One destination, especially the guys that are in the aviation industry, one destination you want to visit you have never been to.
Israel.
Okay.
Same, Israel.
Nick, you live here, you can't choose Israel.
Seychelles, Maldives, Mauritius, somewhere like that.
Okay.
Hawaii.
French Polynesia. And their airport is PPT, by the way, like the PowerPoint.
Yes, it's very
I'll
nice.
check about it.
I've been there, it's very nice. Ofer?
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Very good. Okay, so we will be more than happy to welcome you in Israel. Hopefully, after this pandemic, we'll do our annual Travel Tech Israel, and we're obviously going to extend you an invitation. And I just want to thank all of you for participating, both the industry expert and the startup. I hope that it was both beneficial, a little bit fun, and that you learn out of it. Anybody from the audience, we will send you the startup contact information in case you want to contact, and we'll share everything else that we had here. Anybody has a last thing to say? So if not, thank you very much. Stay safe and stay in touch.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
Thank
Start
everyone.
you.
traveling soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.